This is Red Eyes Radio. Welcome friends, this is Henrik Palmgren and you are listening to Red Eyes Creations Radio. I hope you are having a calm and very nice holiday and that you'll be able to sit back, relax and join me and William Henry for the next hour. But before we get started, I'd just like to say thanks to Leo Sagami for being with us last week. I hope we can do another program with Leo again soon. And if you missed that program or any other, just head on over to redicecreations.com and check out our archives. And we also have a subscribers section. And please consider supporting us and sign up. Alright, so let's get to today's program. Welcome everyone. Today we are in for a real treat. We have William Henry with us on the line, and this is going to be a fascinating program. I've been looking forward to speaking with William for some time now, so I'm really excited about today's show. I have been following William's work for some time, and I think I first heard him on the excellent online radio show Dreamland with Whitley Strieber a while back. And by the way, William is co-hosting that show some of these shows now also, so you should definitely check that out, Dreamland, the online radio show. And William, of course, is an investigative mythologist, and he is the author to, I guess, about 13 books now, and a few titles here are The Cloak of Illuminati, Language of the Birds, Blue Apples, The Healing Sun Code, The Illuminator, and his most recent book is called Star Walkers and the Dimension of the Blessed, and he also got a few DVDs out there, and the latest one, I guess, goes hand in hand with his latest book, Star Walkers, and I'd love to talk about that and much, much more today, so... also, I want to mention his website. It's williamhenry.net, and you'll find lots of fascinating articles there, and you can read more about his books and about his DVDs and so forth. So, welcome to Red Eyes Creations Radio, William, and thank you for spending some time with us here today.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. It's my pleasure. I really appreciate it. I've had quite a few people write me over the years from that part of the world, and I'm thrilled to make your acquaintance.
Excellent. Yeah, it's great to have you. And, to begin here today, William, as I said in the intro there, I first heard you on a few Dreamland shows, and this was, of course, a few years ago now, but I don't know that much about you. And for people who might not be familiar with you up here, why don't you begin to, if you want to, tell us a little bit about yourself and how you can kind of, got into these kinds of subjects?
Well, I grew up as a kind of your normal American kid. I was really into sports and really into reading, and then I grew up in Detroit, Michigan, and my father was in the music business, and he was moving to Nashville, and I decided to follow the rest of my family down here to Nashville, where I presently live, and go to school with the intention of becoming a music business lawyer, an entertainment lawyer, representing songwriters or record companies and that kind of thing. Nashville is it's known as Music City, USA. It's a huge country music center.
Yeah.
And the catch was that this program, this music business program, was offered at a pretty small Southern Baptist college here in Nashville. And the catch was that in order to get your music business degree, you had to take Bible study classes. Well, I was 19 years old. This was 1982. I knew next to nothing about the Bible and found myself taking Old Testament history classes, New Testament history classes. But it was when I was in a sociology class in my sophomore year, 1982, that the professor assigned us to review a book whose implications would impact Christianity. So I went to my local bookstore, and there was a brand new book on the shelves then. It was called Holy Blood, Holy Grail.
Yeah.
And as many people know, that's the book that inspired the Da Vinci Code.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
And it put forth this idea that there's a parallel esoteric Christian tradition. I mean, apart from the whole bloodline business and all that, what really attracted me through reading that book, and which caused me to shift my career path, was this revelation that, wait a minute, there's this whole other parallel mystery tradition that nobody really talks about that much in the mainstream circles.
Yeah.
And all I knew is that, hey, this was for me. And so I began a path of self-teaching, literally, for the next, I guess, 14, 15 years. And then in 1996, I began publishing books as a self-published author and as a self-trained investigative mythologist, and have been lecturing pretty much around the world and in the United States and doing radio interviews and publishing books ever since then. And all of my books revolve around this idea of, okay, there's an ancient sacred science that has been denied the average human throughout history.
Yeah.
And there are certain individuals that have access to the innermost secrets of that sacred science, and if you can connect with those people, you're in good shape. But if not, you really, it's a tough go without this kind of knowledge.
Yeah, sure. And you also, I guess, travel to a lot of these places that you talk about, like Egypt and, of course, France and places like this, correct?
Absolutely. I'm a big believer in the idea that you got to get your boots on the ground in these places to really connect with the people, connect with the temples. There's so much you can get out of books, but books are very limited. They can't show you everything that you can see, feel, and experience when you're actually at a place.
Yeah. So that's very exciting. And so you began kind of looking at this from the perspective of Holy Blood, Holy Grail. And have you kind of continued in this tradition now with a bloodline theme and moving upwards? I mean, I just, as I mentioned before we came online here, that you have a new book out, Star Walk, and why don't we talk a little bit about that? What kind of direction do you go into with this latest book of yours?
Well, it's, again, as you mentioned, the title is Star Walkers and the Dimension of the Blessed. And it really talks about two traditions. One of these interdimensional beings I refer to as Star Walkers, who are literally advanced humans that have performed what they call the great work or the great perfection, and have transformed themselves into beings of light. The most common example of a Star Walker is actually Jesus. When he goes through the whole transfiguration process, he has turned himself into a light being, and he begins to exemplify the capabilities, the qualities of these beings. He can come and go from the earth plane to this other dimensional realm, which is referred to in Egypt as the field of the blessed or the dimension of the blessed. And in ancient Egyptian tradition, they believe that all our lives is, the purpose of our lives is about preparing ourselves for life in this other dimension they call the dimension of the blessed.
Very interesting. And of course the obvious question here is, kind of where did this knowledge come from? And do you think that, this was brought out by humans or by these, commonly known as these ancient gods?
No, what I really think has happened is, and this is something I talk about in the Star Walkers book in detail, I go back to the earliest creation myths. For example, when you go to ancient Sumeria, you learn about a group of beings called Anunnaki.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
Who established a first Earth colony. These are beings who came to the Earth from the heavens. Whether or not they're humanoid or not, it doesn't matter to us right now.
Yeah, sure, yeah.
But what happened is when they first came to Earth, they established an Earth colony at a place called Eridu, which is referred to as the place of reeds. And then, curiously, when you go to Egyptian creation mythology, as, for example, taught at the Temple of Horus at Edfu, we learn about a group of beings described as light beings who came to Earth and established the first civilization at a place of reeds. And so right there we see a repetition in two places of a creation mythology that involves beings who came from elsewhere and established a place called the place of reeds. Well, the Egyptians then referred to this place of reeds as the field of reeds and the field of the blessed. And they described it as a place, as what we would think of as a portal as a place where the gods could come and go. And importantly, in the Egyptian and in the Sumerian creation mythologies, they talk about these beings who are coming to Earth from the stars, who then had a hand in the creation or manipulation of the human body. And what you learn in many people's estimations, especially that of, for example, Zechariah Sitchin, who your listeners are probably familiar with, he proposes that in his interpretation of the Sumerian myths that these Anunnaki came here to mine gold. And they created the human body as a tool, I don't like to use the word slave race, but as a worker force to mine this gold for them. But my thinking started to change on it when I realized that the name of the god who performed this genetic manipulation, according to Sumerian myths, his name was Enki. And this god Enki is also considered to be the god of smithcraft and alchemy. And so as I'm thinking about this, I'm wondering now, why does an alchemist, a person who's capable of transmuting base metals, especially iron or lead, into gold, why do they need to come to Earth and create a slave race in order to mine that gold for him? Why wouldn't he just grab a hunk of space rock and transmute it? So what I began to think about, and this became sort of the centerpiece of my research that led me to the whole Star Walkers idea, is that in alchemy, the idea of lead and the idea of the impure soul are interchangeable. And what the alchemist is trying to do is transmute impure metal or an impure soul into a pure soul, which is symbolized by gold. So I began to wonder, and I posed the question, and I still pose it, what if these ancient gods didn't come here for gold? What if they came here and manipulated the human body not to mine gold, but to mine souls? What if the human body is some kind of a tool from the soul's perspective that it uses to return to the heavens, for example? So that the soul then can become a star walker once again. And that really opened up a whole lot of new questions in my imagination about just what exactly are the capabilities of this human body. And I began to get away from the idea of referring to the human body as a body. I refer to it as a plant. It's a plant. And when we think of the word plant, like in Detroit, where I grew up, a lot of my family members worked at the plant. And what they worked at was a manufacturing facility. And so what if the human body is a manufacturing facility? What if it is a plant? Well, what is this body capable of manufacturing? Well, it turns out that in all the esoteric traditions, they talk about various oils and secretions that the human body is capable of manufacturing that bring about the enlightenment of that body or that plant. And that, I believe, those are the innermost secrets that we're talking about. That's what they don't want us to know about, is that we've been given this incredible plant that is capable of manufacturing some amazing oils and other products that can bring about our own awakening and our own enlightenment.
Fascinating. And one thing that came to mind here is, of course, the question of itself, where a soul comes from and what it is, because in some sense I can relate to the thought that they might, kind of refine their own, spiritual